Latest football news,
engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, as always. And well, we've had a lot of football action this weekend, and there's somebody who's going to be joining me as always because he's contracted, unfortunately. He doesn't get paid. Neither do I. It is Dan. Dan, how are you doing? Long time no see. A week away, but we've had lots of football, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, we have had lots of football. It's been lovely, hasn't it? It's weird to think there was a time where we didn't have football at all, isn't it? It's like nearly a year ago now.
Yeah, and going to football games. That's nearly a year ago. I think the people went at the end of 2020, like the lucky people, VIP members. But
Yeah, they are.
It is the world we live in at the moment. But what have we got coming on today's show? Well, before I get to that, I've been mentioned the social medias, Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, and we've got coming today. We're talking about Ipswich Town. They played Burton Albion away this week, and we'll see how they got on. And also, they've been doing some cheeky transfer business. I see you, Ipswich Town, doing 2 transfers in 2 days. Steady down, calm down. You don't make too many. Just, spread them out nicely. And then we're going to talk about Newcastle United. Yes, we're going to talk about our club today and the Premier League. We've had plenty of games happening, plenty of action. And we've got some good news about the Premier League, about games being televised now until the end of February, which is nice to see. Good move, Premier League. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town against Burton Albion, and we'll see how they got on.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan as always. And Dan, before we get cracking on, we're talking about Ipswich Town. I better mention the social media, shall I? Because I always forget about them, so we shall do it for once. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. And well, Ipswich Town were back in action this week, away from home. The first time being away from home in 2021. And they travelled to Burton Albion after a poor performance against Swindon Town where they lost 3-2 at home. Ipswich came back out on top, a 1-0 victory, thanks to Mark McGuinness getting his first professional goal and his first Ipswich Town goal of his career. So, round of applause, please, for Mark McGuinness. But Dan, thoughts on the performance? Because I think we can see here it's 3 points at the end of the day. It's a 1-0 victory, but it's a bit of a different story, wasn't it, on the pitch?
Yeah, it's the same old story, isn't it, really? The poor performance once again. We're not really showing any attacking threat whatsoever. We haven't really been doing that for the last few games. And yeah, it's the same again. I think we had one shot altogether in the first half, and it looked like it was destined to be 0-0. I thought at half time, this is just going to be 0-0. I predicted that before the game. And it just looked destined to be that. We managed to get the win. It's 3 points at the end of the day. We still won the game, and that's why we're there to win games, and we won it. But I think the fact is that the fans know that we've got really tough games coming up. We've got Peterborough, we got Sunderland, we got Crewe. They're our next 3 games. They're teams that are around us. Crewe went ahead of us. Was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. Peterborough in 5th.
Tuesday
Sunderland,
night they did.
Tuesday night, yeah. So Peterborough 5th and Sunderland, they're one behind us. I think they're 2 points off us. So I think the fact is it's a win. It's 3 points, and we should be happy with that, because if, as football fans, if we're not happy with a win, then I don't know what that makes us. But it just, for me, it doesn't really mean much, because we know what's going to happen tomorrow and on Tuesday and on next Saturday as well. So, it's a poor performance once again. And if we keep performing like that, then I'm going to keep with this kind of attitude, because it's just poor, isn't it? It's just poor. we've played Burton twice in 3 games. We beat them twice, but both of the times it was scraping wins, weren't it? And we keep doing that, which I guess is fine enough considering we keep getting 3 points. But we keep scraping wins, and when we come up against teams like Peterborough and Sunderland, we keep repeating this and saying that over and over again. But we're not going to beat them if we play like that. So yeah, not confident about Saturday and poor performance, but still a win.
Yes, still a win, but the game was quite scrappy, as you said there. Very stop-start, but is credit due to Ipswich Town? They got 3 points from a poor game. I know they struggled to have 2 shots on target throughout the whole game, but at the end of the day, it's 3 points. The 1 point off that playoff places. So do they deserve some credit? Because they're getting results. I know it's not the prettiest of football, but at the end of the day, if they're getting 3 points, as you said there, it's all that matters, 3 points. And I know it sounds a bit bad, but should we feel a bit happy here for Mark McGuinness? Because his first goal has been overshadowed by what we describe here as a poor performance by Ipswich.
Yeah, his goal was overshadowed, and credit to him because, he's kind of his loan spell didn't really start great, did it? We were kind of saying he's not all that, but he's kind of come into his game. I think he's done okay. Our whole defence hasn't really been great all season, has it really? But he's been an okay player. I think he's on better form than Wolfenden is at the moment, and that showed whether he got dropped for form reasons or whether it's something he said in that interview. If it is that, then anyway. So yeah, I think that goal was overshadowed a little bit by the performance, but yeah, as you said, it's a win. A win's a win, and we should give credit to our players. They managed to get the win, but the performance doesn't show that, does it? And I think wins like that only are credited if we get a result at home tomorrow against Peterborough, because if we lose that game, then that win against Burton means pretty much nothing, doesn't it? So it's a tough one, isn't it? Because you don't want to be negative about a win. And I think that's how a lot of fans are feeling, because most fans are feeling that was a poor performance. It wasn't good enough. But some others are thinking we won a game. What are we complaining about? So I think it's a really tough thing. But yeah, as I said, I only think it really comes down to whether we can actually beat teams around us, because we've said this before. If we only beat teams below us, and I mean we lost to Swindon last home game, who are second bottom, but if you go and only beat teams below us, then we're not going to finish in the playoffs, are we? It's not going to end like that, and we're just going to stay around where we are now, which I think is most probable. But yeah, if we can get a result against Peterborough, maybe my view on this win will be a bit different. But yeah, we can't go over that McGuinness scored his first professional goal. It was a good header at the back post. Cross was a bit lucky. Deflected off the wall quite heavily, but he rose well and headed it into the net, so credit to him.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens tomorrow against Peterborough. Quite a fascinating game, I have to say. But somebody who returned to the starting 11 after 5 games on the bench in a row was Toto Enciala. Back, just brought out of the blue. Very weird sort of move by Paul Lambert. 6 changes from that side that lost to Swindon Town. A lot of the cavalry coming back in his sort of determination of players coming back. But his first start since Charlton, been on the bench for 5 games in a row, came into the starting lineup over Luke Wolfenden, which was at the time was seen as kind of a very bad move. Luke Wolfenden being one of the better centre halves, I think we could say, this season at Ipswich Town, did a very honest interview after the Swindon game, sort of saying that the tactics don't work for Ipswich Town. We did talk about that last week, but Toto came in, he produced a man-of-the-match performance, which is great to see, because this season he has been criticised a lot. But if he's going to be producing man-of-the-match performances, why is he sitting on the bench for a start?
Yeah, that is a good point. I think it's unfortunate for Wolfenden. He's had a poor few games, I think, and I said at the time that Wolfenden was probably dropped because of the interview that Lambert didn't like the interview, but looking at it again, he hasn't been performing well these last few games. He's had a good season so far, but it's just these last few games he hasn't been really at his best. So, he's got a rest. Toto came in. I didn't really agree with it at the time. I think my thoughts on Toto. But the thing is, he can be a class defender on his day because he puts his body on the line. He really jumps in front of the ball when he can. It's sometimes a bit reckless, and sometimes he makes a mistake. But overall, I think he can be a good player. He just needs to get game time, and we know that there's going to be a risk of a penalty being given if he's on the pitch. That's just part of his game. But if he can put in performances like that, like he did, he got a clean sheet on his game back, then why not? I think he should be starting. Everyone makes a mistake. I know he makes quite a lot. We saw in the Burton game, he kind of sliced the ball towards his own goal. Holy was luckily on the spot to catch it. If he weren't paying attention, then that could have gone very badly, and we would have been talking about him having an awful game, really, probably, wouldn't we? But yeah, I think he'll start on Saturday. And if he keeps performing well, then why not? But I think he's just one of these players that can be good on his day, but then will have a stinker the next game and then get dropped again. So we'll have to wait and see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. We still don't know who Lambert's going to be playing, but two players that could be making their Ipswich Town debuts is two January transfers. Yes, I have said that right. Ipswich have made 2 transfers in the January window. Don't panic. This is actually real news. On Tuesday and Wednesday, they signed 2 players on loan. Luke Thomas, firstly from Barnsley, joining for the rest of the season, and also Josh Harrop from Preston North End on loan. 2 very attacking options here for Paul Lambert, a new winger and a number 10 as well, which has been suggesting possibly a formation change because Josh Harrop is this number 10. Could be the best thing ever. But this season, these 2 players haven't got the great stats. Luke Thomas, 19 appearances, 0 goals, 0 assists. He's made more substitute appearances than actual starts season. 720 minutes, averaging 37.8 minutes per game. But for Josh Harrop, who's still come back from an injury, had an ACL injury a few seasons ago in the 18/19 season. So still, I think we can sort of say recovering from that. But Alex McNeil said that he needs to get game time because he's struggling for consistency. And looking at stats, 5 appearances, 0 goals, 0 assists, 190 minutes across those 5 games altogether. But for Lambert, he's trying to bring something a bit different here. We know it's are lacking in that creativity area. And will these 2 players fill that void and help it? Because they need to create more goals. That's something they are lacking, I think we could say now.
Yeah, they are. And you might look at them stats and think they're not good stats. But I think that these are 2 really good attacking options. And I think that's what we kind of wanted to see going into this transfer window. We wanted to see some attacking options coming in because, as you said, we're lacking in goals. We're not really creating anything. We've got a lack of creativity. We've had a lot of players out, but we're just showing nothing really in the final third at the moment. So I think that these 2 coming in, I think they're good additions. Luke Thomas, hadn't really heard of him before. He played for Barnsley. I think as you said, he's played quite a few. He's made quite a few sub appearances for Barnsley this season in the Championship. So, he's coming on for their first team. He's a winger, so I think he's a right winger. So hopefully he's quite pacey and creates stuff on that right-hand side. Bit of a worry where Edwards would go. Hopefully Edwards will start to come over to the left. I hope, but Judge is still there, isn't he? So we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, I think that's an all right signing. He looks he's quite young. He looks quite quick and quite strong as well. So let's hope that he can do well. Josh Harrop is a player that I've heard of before. Obviously from Preston. I think I've seen him play at Port Monroe before. He's most suited to a number 10. I was quite excited about the signing because I know he's quite a creative player. And But I don't know if you've seen by what the Preston fans are saying, but they're all saying that he's going to be the best player in the league by far. So I know we can't go on what they say, but that's something to take note of. But yeah, he's of Man United youth, isn't he? He scored in his debut. Had to mention that. Scored in his debut for United back in 2017. I think he rejected a contract to go to Preston. But yeah, I was quite surprised. He's started in the Premier League. Looked like he was going to be another one of United's youngsters. He went down to the Championship. Now he's in League One. For a player with that much, potential. He's still only 25. Don't forget. He's starting to get into his prime years. I'm quite surprised he's come down to us in League One. But obviously he's not getting game time at Preston. Just come back from an injury. So yeah, I'm really pleased about this signing, and hopefully he can do well for us and not get injured and actually start creating stuff in that number. I hope Lambert plays him in the number 10 role like he's suited to.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. I knew he was going to mention that stat. It sounds like we've got another Will Keane really on our hands here. He played for Manchester United and all this, and he's going to be the best thing ever. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully these two signs will work out because, they are still quite relatively young. Luke Thomas is 21. As you said, Josh Harrop is 25. They're heading towards their prime years. But Dan, as we now approach the halfway stage of this League One season, I think the strangest season we can say by far. Ipswich Town, 1 point off the playoffs, sitting in 8th, but only 7 points off first, 6 above the bottom half, 7 above 15th. A big week coming up ahead against Peterborough and Sunderland, back-to-back home games. So-called promotion rivals. Do we still call them promotion rivals now? Shall we say yeah?
I guess, but as I'll say in a minute, you'll know why I don't think they're promotion rivals.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Dan, at the start of the season, you said that Ipswich Town will finish 7th/8th, and you're actually I think you're right, actually, because they're 8th at the moment. They were 7th at the beginning of the week. They're now 8th, so you've done quite well. Gold star to you. But now seeing Ipswich how they play for about nearly half a season, we know it's just behind a few games. Some teams are actually over the halfway stage already, but some teams aren't, like Ipswich Town. But you've seen how they're playing this season. Now, I'm going to ask you something to do something very bold here. Where do you think Ipswich Town are going to finish at the end of the season now? After seeing them halfway through, technically, do you think that the promotion is not over just yet?
Look, with the way we're playing, we're not getting promoted. Everyone knows that. We're just not. It's not. I don't think it's happening. We might be 7 points off, but we're just not good enough to go up. We're really not. So it's still close in there. Obviously, we're still 1 point off the playoffs. But as you said, I've seen us play how we've been playing all season. We had a good start. Once again, it dropped off, and now we're just playing really poorly. I hope these additions can come in and do enough, but 2 additions coming in, I still don't think it's going to be enough to change it. I really don't. So we're 8th at the moment. As I've said before, I hate to be so negative because, it's my team, but that's the state that we're in at the moment. We're really not going anywhere. So I think I'm going to say we're going to finish 10th this year. It's just going to be that type of season again. And I think everyone else will agree with me because that's the way it's heading. It really is.
Cool. I wasn't expecting that. I thought you
Well, where did you think?
I thought you were going to say, I'm going to stick to my original prediction.
No.
Oh, gosh. I know it's bad.
Do you think where do you think we'll finish? Do you think we'll stay the same or?
Well, I have to not have an opinion here, Dan.
Okay, you have to stay. Okay,
I have to
sure.
be neutral. Unfortunately, this situation. Oh God, I was not expecting that. You could tell the show is not scripted at all because I was not expecting that.
I can't believe you weren't expecting that.
No.
I can't believe it. I can't believe you weren't expecting that. I thought that was the most obvious answer.
No, I thought you should say maybe 7th or 8th. I'm going to be optimistic here.
No.
Oh, God.
I'm never optimistic anymore.
Oh, God. The fun we have on the show. Well, I'm just going to give you a minute here. Right. The fun we have on the show. So, this is Town starting off a big week at home against Peterborough. First time the two sides have met this season after Peterborough cancelled the first game at their stadium due to COVID-19. Then it's just cancelled the next 3 in a row, if I'm correct. But Peterborough, last 5 games, 11 points, beating Charlton last time out. But Dan, can Ipswich finally beat a promotion rival this season, get back into that playoff places, or will Peterborough continues unbeaten run, who are currently sitting 5th in League One?
Yeah, I think this is probably the most predictable preview I've ever done. I think they're too good for us. As simple as that. There's some of their players their front three is too good for this league. Johnson, Clark, Harris, he's been scoring goals for fun. Schmodix, I think he scored 4 in 2 or something like that, or 3 in 2. Sariki Dembele as well. He's probably the best player in League One. So that attacking 3 against our back 4, I don't think we're going to be good enough to win the game. Whether we can get a goal, let's hope that Harrop and Thomas come in straight away and see if they can make a difference, see if we can, attack their defence. I don't know how good their defence is really. I think they had quite a poor run during the middle of maybe October or November. I think was at the time, no, it was when they were losing, they lost to Chorley in the FA Cup, weren't it? That would have been the second round. They weren't on a very good run there. So maybe we can unlock their defence a little bit with some attacking threat, but I can't see us getting anything from it. I'll say we'll get a goal. I'm going to say 2-1 to Peterborough.
At least you didn't go 4-1 like it was last time.
Yeah.
And it was
it could very possibly be that again, but I'm going to say 2-1.
Oh, God. So Dan's not going for any good score predictions for Ipswich Town versus Peterborough. Let us know what you think. Let us know on social medias at Twitter, at Pitchside Talk on Twitter. But when we come back, we're going to talk about our club. And that's Newcastle United, because this season hasn't been very good for the Toons.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Well, welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. And well, you just missed our bit there, but Ipswich Town against Burton Albion, and Dan's, to me, shocking predictions of where they're going to finish in the table at the end of the season.
How is it shocking? Come on.
Well, I thought, some optimism, It's a new year, new me thing, whatever it is.
Have you not learned?
No, I have not learned. I've still not learned. So I always think it's just done to do well, and then I spend my £10 watching them, and it's like, I could have done something better with that £10.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But before we move on in what's coming up next on the show, when we're talking about Newcastle United, I better mention social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud at Pitchside Talk. You want us back to any of the previous shows or even this one, if you missed Dan talking about Ipswich Town, don't worry. They'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. And now, Dan, Newcastle United, historic football club, massive and passionate fan base, but this season has added more frustration and misery to the fan base, with recent things looking pretty dire for the club after that failed takeover bidding last summer. Now only 7 points off the drop zone, 1 win in their last 7, including a loss to Sheffield United, who haven't even won a game at all this season. Haven't even won a game, and they lost to them. Local papers in Newcastle describing it shambolic, pathetic, and an insult to the club. Imagine that happening over here in Ipswich. Oh, the respect all the newspapers would get, but unfortunately they don't do that. But Dan, at the moment here, worrying times here for Newcastle fans. But for Steve Bruce, a worrying time for him here, because I think we can sort of say his job is not looking too great. Newcastle fans are not happy with him. They're not happy with the style of football. And with him being an ex-Sunderland manager, that just adds a little bit more insult to injury for Newcastle fans.
Yeah, it is on the line, and the results that have come through recently aren't good enough. The loss against Sheffield United was a big one, and they hadn't won a single game all season, so to lose to them was really poor. So I think if these results continue, I think Steve Bruce hasn't got much time left. said when he came in that Newcastle wouldn't, do very well that first season he came in. He kind of did more than I expected to. I think they had a good season in that first season under Steve Bruce, which I was quite surprised about after Rafa left. But yeah, it is worrying times, and it's been a long time since Newcastle have been, where they want to be. It's such a big club, and their fans are so passionate, and I think they're fed up with just being in mid-table constantly, and the fact that they're kind of dropping down into this relegation fight now. I don't think it's going to be long until he goes if these results keep going on. Maybe he'll get given to the end of the season, but I can't see Steve Bruce's time at Newcastle lasting much longer.
Well, he has received the support of Mike Ashley, which is a rarity in itself. Mike Ashley offering support to a manager. Usually that never happens. Usually just keeps quiet, but he has supported Steve Bruce, saying that he will stick by him. But for fans, it's been a very frustrating time now for the last 14 years under Mike Ashley since he took over the club. 2 relegations from the Premier League, an average finishing of position of 13th in the Premier League over the last 12 seasons. But it's not looking great for them. According to the chairman of the Newcastle Supporters Trust, he said that Steve Bruce has burned a lot of that Newcastle frustration for a long time. He has been holding back. We know that he has been holding it back, and I think it's slowly now starting to creep through a little bit. What he said about, I'm going to do it my way, the footballing. But if Steve Bruce gets sacked, which he said, there's no Rafael Benitez type of manager coming in who provided so much hope for Newcastle in sort of, we can say, not great times. It wasn't great football, but under Rafa, it was very much lovely football. That sort of hope was brought back to Newcastle, something that's been missing a long time. But Newcastle aren't into club that are not like a Burnley or West Brom who celebrate surviving in the Premier League. They're a club that want to be fighting for Europe. At the end of the day, Newcastle are a very big club in the Premier League. I think bigger up there with Manchester United and Liverpool, we can say here.
Yeah, they are one of the bigger sides in the league, and that's why, as you said, they're not going to accept to just finish 17th, 16th, 15th every season. I think the fans view that it's not good enough that they keep having to fight for relegation. They've been to the Championship twice in the last over 10 years now. Last 12 years. I think they were there 08 or 09, wasn't it? Or 09, 10? One of them. Yeah, and then 16, 17 as well. So they've been down to the Championship twice now. And, I think that the fans are just getting fed up with this. And, we all know the relationship between the owner and the fans doesn't exist at Newcastle. They all really dislike him for good reason. We know what Mike Ashley's like. But yeah, you say Steve Bruce, he's kind of come out and said that he'll do the football in his own way. So I don't know. It just seems a bit of disarray there at the moment. I know he said he has the support. Mike Ashley is going to support him, but at the end of the day, football's a results business, and if the manager isn't getting results, then he's not going to last much longer unless he's Ipswich Town. So that's just how it is. So I think that I understand the fans' frustration. I think everyone understands why the fans are so frustrated at the moment. The size of the club and where they are in the league, and they want to be watching exciting football. And I think Steve Bruce is one of the, an old English manager who has a certain way of playing. And I think all the managers like him and Pulis and all of them type of Mick McCarthy, they all have the same type of style of playing. And I don't think, the fans don't enjoy watching it. And, something needs to change for them to be able to be where the fans want them to be, which is, as you said, fighting for Europe. So, it's tough to see where Newcastle are going to be because, the owner's not going away. And, a lot of their fans think that it's the owner's fault. So it's going to be interesting to see in the next few years what Newcastle do to kind of try and lift themselves up in the league. But as I said before, I don't think Bruce is gonna be there for much longer. And if he is, then it just looks to me like they're going to be stuck in mid-table for a while.
Yeah, well, is he? I know it's about bad, but is he being treated unfairly here? Because the football at Newcastle for the last 10 years has been pretty poor. I don't think that's sort of, there's a lot of evidence to show it has been pretty poor. This season, he's lost a lot of players due to long COVID. We know that Lascelles has only just come back to make his first appearance in 2 months. St. Maximin is still out with long COVID from November. He's only sort of started training again. And he's being compared to Rafa Benitez here, a fan favourite within the Newcastle fan base. He stuck with them through the Championship, got them out, got them into the Premier League and sort of kept them safe. He knew he couldn't do anything with them. He kept them safe, but is he being treated a little bit unfairly here? Because he's been compared to a man who brought hope. The football was the same, but there was hope at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Rafa brought, wasn't it? And I think it's just a style of a European manager who's had experience. He's won trophies, and I just think that the football was more exciting to watch. But when you compare Steve Bruce to Rafa, it's just two completely different ways of going about it, isn't it? It's just two different styles of football they play, and I do think you're right. I do think it's unfair to compare the two because they're two completely different managers. But as I said before, it's results business. It's football. You have to be able to go up positions in the table, and if they're not going to get results, then where are they going to go? They're going to drop down into the relegation zone. So, yeah, I think you're right in saying that he may be treated a little bit harshly by the fact that he's being compared to Rafa. It's not really comparable them two, is it? So, but then on the other hand, he needs to be doing better as a manager, and the football they're playing isn't exciting, and they're not getting results. But it's quite surprising because they've got some decent players, as you said. That a lot of their players are out with long COVID. Lascelles, he's been massive for Newcastle, hasn't he? So Maximin he's a fantastic player. On his day, he can be brilliant, and he's out as well. But they have got some decent players in their squad. So I do think their squad is good enough. Their players are good enough, but it's just not working at the moment. So, yeah, as I said before, something has to change. Otherwise, they're going to stay where they are.
Yeah, well, they've got a tough run of games coming up next. So next six is Leeds at home, Newcastle, Everton away, Crystal Palace at home, Southampton at home, and then Chelsea and Manchester United both away. Some tough run, 5 points in the last 8 games. Only ahead of Chelsea, Brighton, Sheffield United, and West Brom. So he's going to need points, really, and results ASAP if he wants to be keeping the job. And keeping Newcastle up in the Premier League is sort of a guarantee thing. You need to keep them in the Premier League. This is Newcastle. I know it sounds bad, and it sort of sounds like an Ipswich quote here, but they're too big for the Championship. I'm sorry. Newcastle.
Yeah, they are. That's true.
So, yeah, but when we come back, we talked about Newcastle, and now we look at the whole of the Premier League. We've had plenty of matches. We've had people go from hero to zero in the space of the game. It's been mad, but we'll be looking at the biggest winners and the biggest losers right after this.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan. As always, well, he's always here. He's contracted now, but he's here as always. And, well, before we move on to what's coming up next in the show, the Premier League, I better mention the social medias. Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram's Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud at Pitchside Talk if you want to listen back to any of the previous shows or whatever you missed in this show, because I'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. if you missed Dan talk about Ipswich Town, a little conversation about Newcastle United, about it's not looking too great for them this season. You can catch that at 6 p.m. on Friday. Now, Dan, the Premier League, back in action. We've had plenty of games. We've actually had 13 games. We've had sides play two games in the space of 3 days. It's been a bit mad. And
it has.
I want to just jump straight into it, really, with the biggest winners and the biggest losers. And I want to start off with a team that sort of has gone under the radar this season, Leicester City. They're throwing their hat into the ring as they've got 6 points from 2 games against Southampton and Chelsea. They went first for about under 24 hours, I want to say they went first for about under 24 hours. They're consistently delivering this season. I think we can sort of say they're the side that has been the most consistent out of all the teams, even though they have lost weird matches here and there. But they're delivering with class performances, and their team, with some teams struggling to fire here, is this a big opportunity for Leicester? I know they're not talking about the title on Leicester. They're talking about they've got to just keep delivering game by game by game. We saw what happened last season. It fell off, the wheels fell off the wagon. They missed out on that Champions League spot, got into the Europa League. But this season here looks very much different for Leicester, and it could be quite a promising year.
Yeah, it could be. Leicester are a team that are always around there now. It's weird because every season they seem to be around the top, the top four. So, they're having another fantastic season. And obviously, you can't rule them out. They're kind of, there's kind of three teams at the start of the year that you wouldn't expect to be in the top four there. It was Leicester, Southampton and Everton. And they are the team that have stayed there. So, Everton and Southampton have dropped off and they've stayed around there. They've been playing really well and getting some brilliant results. So I'm not going to rule them out. I do worry a little bit that they'll kind of drop off like they did last year when the season gets to its end. But, it's looking really promising for them. And, the way that their team spirit seems to be excellent this year once again. And I don't think I don't think it'll be as dramatic as a drop off as last year. Obviously, the lockdown really affected them. The break from football. After that, they couldn't really get any results, could they? So they won't have that to worry about. So I can see them staying there. Whether they can win the title, it's going to be difficult, but they're going to stay in and around that top four. I really hope they can get into the top four this year because that'll be a really successful season.
It will, but I think I know you won't want to give appreciation into a former Norwich player here, but I think we have to say James Maddison here, top class here, and I can't wait to see him playing in England side. Hopefully next to Jack Grealish in the midfield.
That would be perfect. Maddison and Grealish. I'd love that.
Every defence would be terrified, and it would be coming home and would be very happy. But Gareth, I know you're going to play Mason Mount. He's going to be playing Mason Mount. We all know. But moving on to another Mason. Poor Mason. He's a good player, but he's not the one we need right now. Mason, we need Grealish and Maddison. Hear me. Well, another big winner this week was Manchester City. 10 games now unbeaten for City. Pep's side has finally found their mojo and some consistency. At the start of the season, it wasn't looking very pretty for them. Couldn't win the Premier League, but the Champions League was a very different story. But it looks like they finally got that mojo, and they look like the Man City from a few seasons ago. And if they're going to be like that, we're scared. But they did return to top spot for an hour or so before Manchester United won against Fulham and reclaimed that spot, reclaimed their 2-point lead as well. But Man City here, Dan, have got a game in hand. So are we possibly talking about a provisional first here for Man City? I know there's no guarantees in football. They're against Everton, the side that they struggled a bit in the past. But this could be Man City's year. I think if how chaos is going to be, and they're going to be strong as they can be, like they were a few seasons ago, teams are going to be terrified.
Yeah, they are. And if they get on, a winning run, then it's going to be really tough to stop them. I think I said this last week. They kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't even realise they were in second until I looked at the league table this morning before the show. So, they kind of came out of nowhere. I know they were on a really good run of form, but, they're game in hand there. As you said, they could be professional top if they win that game against Everton. So, it's really looking good for them. They're in the title race now. And, a few months ago, it didn't look like they were anywhere near it. I think they were down in 10th place, weren't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of mad how this season's, panned out to have United and City fighting it at the top at the moment with Leicester and Liverpool down their necks. So, I think City have got a really good chance here to go and win the league. I really do. And if they keep performing like they are, then, that's every chance. I think we were talking about a few months ago, whether Pep's job was at risk, weren't we?
Yeah.
Some Man City fans are getting fed up with him. but he's kind of turned a corner now and brought Man City back to fighting for the title again, and they have a really big chance this year.
Yeah, I think that's what a top quality manager does, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
turns around. But the biggest losers this week, there's only one. There's only one team we can talk about. I'm sorry, Piers, but it's Chelsea. Another tough week for Frank Lampard. Despite victory against Fulham, he got a victory against Fulham, 3 points, 1-0 victory, but a poor performance against Leicester, seeing him only 5 points outside the top 4. And there is reports about Frank Lampard's future. It's nearly over. Apparently, if the form does not improve soon, he will be out. Dan, the run of fixtures they've got are a little bit tough, really. They've got Wolves at home, Burnley at home, but then they've got a big game against Tottenham, which we sort of said here, if he's still there, that could be his decider. We do not know, but that could be his possible decider as Chelsea manager. With the way things are going at the moment, is he feeling that pressure? Is he starting to feel that pressure? And will he turn it around in time? Because we want to see him do well. He was a good player. I think he could be a good manager, but at the moment, it's not going his way.
No, and the lack of experience. I know he's had a season, and he did well in his first season, but there's still a lack of experience there. And yeah, I think he's definitely feeling the pressure. The results and performances haven't been good for Chelsea, so I think that it's right that he's walking on his job's on the line basically. Results are really needed in the Chelsea camp, and their run of fixtures, I think the Wolves and Burnley game are winnable. Wolves is definitely going to be a harder game, but they're not looking very good at the moment. Burnley's winnable, so I think you're right. I think that Tottenham game will be a decider, and I think that's a really important game for him. It's quite surprising. I think at the start of the year, we all said that Chelsea would be fighting for the title this year. With the signings they made in the summer, Werner, Ziyech, Havertz, Thiago Silva. We all thought that they were brilliant additions, but they just haven't been performing, have they? I don't know what it is. They just maybe can't get used to the way the Premier League is, or I don't really know. But on paper, players are really, really good players, but they're just not performing as they should be. So, yeah, I think it's not going to be long until Lampard goes if this form carries on. But if they can get a few wins under their belt, go on a run of 4 or 5 games with wins, then maybe his job will be a bit safer. But I think that game against Tottenham, it's going to be a difficult game. If they lose that, then his job is really on the line then.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. And that's everything really from the Premier League. We've had lots of Premier League action, but we've got some more coming up in the next few days. We've got midweek games coming us left, right, and centre. I don't know where to turn really. You turn one way and there's Premier League football. You turn the other way, there's more Premier League football. You look centre, there's more Premier League football. It's nice, but I just want to breathe a little bit. But when we come back, we're going to be doing a very quick football roundup. Hopefully Dan's got some news. I think I've got some news. I'm not too sure, but we're going to rock and roll with it.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan. As always, and Dan, we're nearly at the end of the show. Shock horror. So I think it's time for some football roundup. Hey. I still haven't got any sound effects, unfortunately. Sorry. I had to do it myself. Budget cuts, We're on an Ipswich Town budget here,
Yeah, well, the lockdown is it's not helping us, is it?
No, it's not, unfortunately. But I've got some news for you today. And this is all about Robert Snodgrass. Yes, Robert Snodgrass. What do you mean? Well, West Ham played West Brom on Tuesday. Robert Snodgrass had just moved from West Ham to West Brom, signing for them for an undisclosed fee, actually a permanent signing, and he wasn't in the starting lineup, which is a bit weird. And everyone's saying, oh, he can't play because he's on loan. But Sam Allardyce confirmed apparently there was agreement between the two clubs, and the Premier League are now investigating whether this was actually right to do this for a player not to play. They believe maybe competitive rules have been broken, saying that Robert Snodgrass could have played, but West Ham have put some sort of clause in, which is not allowed to be done, for him not to play. So a little bit of controversy going on there. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what the penalties will be if West Ham are guilty or if they're not. But a very interesting thing, because you don't see this happen very often. A player can't play against his previous club, even though he's actually a permanent signing for another club. Very weird. Dan, what's your news?
That's an odd one. There hasn't been a lot of news, I'll have to admit, recently, but except from the Ipswich transfers, but we've already talked about that. So it is actually another bit of transfer news in the Ipswich, another Ipswich transfer news, but this time an out youngster goalkeeper Adam. Here we go. Let me butcher his name. Persbeck, I think his name is. He's gone out to Chesterfield on loan, non-league club. So hope he does well there, get some game time. So let's hope he does well there. Obviously waiting in the wings to try and get into the first team squad. So good luck to him.
Yeah, and he actually has. He did have one game, didn't he, against Peterborough? And he actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did. I remember.
Better than some of the other goalkeepers there at Ipswich Town, but we cannot talk about those. Though now we're at the end of the show. Oh God, Dan, it's been a fascinating show, really. We've been talking about Ipswich Town, Premier League, Newcastle, but will you join me for next week? I know you're contracted, but will you join me for next week?
Yeah, of course I will.
He likes it. He likes talking about Ipswich Town. Well, we've got, I don't know what we'll be talking about next week. Maybe 2 Ipswich Town games, got Peterborough and Sunderland coming up back to back. Be interested to get your thoughts on that. FA Cup. Hey. And I don't know what will be next. I'll find out. We'll find out on the day. It'll be a surprise. A nice surprise for both of us, I think I can say. So, what have we got coming up after us? We've got the Gap Year show 6 until 7, the Reba show 7 till 9, and Flip Switch 9 till 10. And before we go, the mention of the social medias, Twitter at Pitch Show Talk, Instagram Talk Console Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitch Show Talk. If you want to back to any of the pre shows or even this one, if you missed anything, don't worry, it'll be up Fridays at 6 p.m. straight after the show is finished. So I've been George. He's been Dan, as always. We'll see you next week, and ciao.
Bye.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.